Breaking news. Nancy Pelosi says that she's not going to send the articles of impeachment to the House today. Really? What a gigantic surprise that is. Breaking news. Nancy Pelosi says she's going to take steps to send the articles of impeachment to the Senate next week. Really?
And now, from sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
What does that mean? She's going to take steps to send the articles of impeachment to the Senate next week. With all due respect to the Chi-Coms and the Chinese, I think the Democrat Party's becoming a Chinese fire drill. I don't think they know what they're doing over there. I think they literally are the equivalent of a bunch of chickens with their heads cut off, and it's really tough to figure out who's running that party outside of the press, outside of the media. Great to have you here, folks. Open Line Friday. You know what that means? Whenever you want to talk about fair game, have at it. The telephone number, 800-282-2882. The email address, lrushbo@eibnet.us. So it appears that the Democrats think, and you'll hear this in the audio sound bites coming up, they think that Trump and Pompeo are lying to them, that there was no reason to get Soleimani, because Soleimani was not planning imminent attacks. Trump has said that he was. Pompeo has said that we have active intel that he was planning attacks. He had hit the Saudi oil field. He had attacked an embassy in Iraq. And they've got intel that he was planning to hit the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. Do you know how big that embassy is? People have no idea. The embassy, our embassy in Baghdad, rivals the Vatican in terms of size. There are 16,000 people in our embassy there. It's a potential lot of damage just waiting to happen. But they're trying to claim that Trump made it all up, that there wasn't any intel. Trump said at his rally last night that the reason he didn't let Congress know first is because they would have leaked it. And there's no doubt about that. If Adam Schiff had gotten a hold of this, or Pelosi, you know damn well they'd have called somebody in the media and tried to sabotage the mission. Not because they love terrorists, but because they'd try to undermine Trump. That's all they've got. The only thing the Democrat Party has is attempting to undermine Trump at whatever stage and with whatever policy that he happens to be interested in or engaging in. And there's no question he's right about it. But on this imminent threat, this is really how empty they are and how baseless they are. Trump didn't have any evidence. There was no imminent evidence that Soleimani was going to hit our embassy. You remember, and I pointed this out yesterday, George W. Bush, after 9/11, after a week or so had gone by, maybe two, and the dust had settled, and the fake unity had finally evaporated, and the Democrats once again became partisan. What did they say? They said that George W. Bush didn't connect the dots. They said Bush is an idiot. They said Bush and his administration are a bunch of fools. It was clear as day what bin Laden was going to do. The signs were all there. But, of course, the FBI couldn't talk to the CIA because of the wall the Clintons had built between various agencies, so they couldn't share data. That was Jamie Gorelick. I'm sure you remember this as I bring it up. But their point was that Bush had all the data. He had all the information to conclude that something was up, but he didn't do anything. So Bush didn't connect the dots, and therefore Osama bin Laden hitting us on 9/11 was Bush's fault, even though it was the Clinton administration who twice had a chance to take out bin Laden and both times failed to do so. There were two different occasions where Bill Clinton was told, we've got bin Laden on a silver platter. One was in Africa. I forget what the other one was. And Clinton decided not to do it for a host of reasons rooted in the fact the world would hate us. We're a superpower. He's this little terrorist guy. It just wouldn't have made sense. It wouldn't have fit with other elements of the Clinton foreign policy. But my point is that all of that took place over years. There was no imminent threat. meaning there was no intel saying in the next 5 days bin Laden's going to attack the World Trade Center. But there was all kinds of chatter. So now let's jump forward to Soleimani and this incident. Trump has done exactly what the Democrats were demanding and accusing Bush of not doing. Trump has connected the dots. We've got intel. Says this guy, number 2 in Iran, number 1 terrorist, planned on hitting a bunch of American targets in addition to the over 600 Americans he's already responsible for killing. And so we're going to take him out. So in this case, Trump has done exactly what they said Bush didn't do. And now they want to go after him for war crimes? This is how baseless they are. They are standing in quicksand. The Democrat Party is standing in quicksand. And there are a number of reasons for it. And I may want to try to explore a little today why that may be. There is something very, very fascinating happening with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and her fundraising that is way outside the standard way it has always been done in what essentially one of the reasons Pelosi or any other speaker has such a hold on the job is that the speaker is always a prolific fundraiser because of the power of the gig. And Pelosi has always, as Boehner did, and as Paul Ryan, share the wealth. You go out and you tell various members, hey, you want to be reelected? Hey, you want my help in being reelected? Hey, support the stuff that I tell you to support, and I'll give you money. And that's how you buy loyalty. That's standard operating procedure. Think of it what you will, but that's how it's always worked. Well, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is out raising money on her own and not sharing it with anybody in the Democrat Party. You know what she's doing with it? She's coming up with people to primary incumbent Democrats in the leadership that she doesn't like because they're a bunch of fossils. They're a bunch of relics. They're a bunch of old-fashioned, we don't do it that way anymore type people. And Pelosi has no control over her. And she, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, could say that she is the energetic figurehead leader of the wacko radical leftists in the Democrat Party that Pelosi is not in charge of. And so it could be said that Pelosi's doing everything she's doing here to try to mollify that group. But folks, the Democrats, we've noted here over the course of this busy broadcast week, all the Democrats breaking with Pelosi. We've had Senator Feinstein break. We've had Chris Coons break. A number of them don't understand what's going on. Okay, we got the article. Send them over. She won't send them over. They want the article sent over. She has been trying to do something, and it's blown up in her face. Her strategy was to hold those articles and force McConnell, because of some kind of imaginary public pressure that was going to be applied to him, to accede to her demands on the trial, i.e. there would be witnesses, i.e. there would be Bolton, i.e. there would be a whole bunch of people that the House didn't call. And Pelosi, for some reason, thought that holding the articles and not sending them over would somehow apply pressure on McConnell and the Republicans in the Senate. Okay, if you want to call witnesses, just send them over. But that hasn't happened. McConnell has stood firm. As the turtle, he hasn't moved. She hasn't. None of this has worked, bottom line. None of what she was attempting has worked. She's no closer to getting what she was aiming for, i.e. an expanded investigation under the guise of a trial in the Senate. So now the Democrats are breaking away. They've grown impatient. What the hell are you doing? Send them over. She said she was going to send them over. I guarantee you, she said some things yesterday. People literally thought we had it yesterday. Democrats, media, really thought she was going to send them over today. In fact, you might have gone to bed last night thinking you're going to wake up today and the articles of impeachment would be delivered to the Senate. Well, had you listened to me yesterday, I would have told you that's not the case, not going to happen. There's no way it's going to happen. And particularly after I heard what Pelosi said yesterday. And after I heard what Pelosi said yesterday, I gave her some advice. Grab audio soundbite number 2. This is the advice I gave. And I think this is still operative. I'm not going to believe that those articles of impeachment will ever get to the Senate till I actually see it happen. She said today she's going to take steps to deliver the articles of impeachment to the... Take steps. What's take steps mean? Well, she's going to have a meeting with her caucus on Tuesday. There's no need for a meeting with the caucus unless there is still a gigantic amount of indecision. And there is, because none of this has worked the way they intended. I'm just going to remind you again, not one thing, starting with Russia meddling in the election and Russia colluding with Trump, not one thing has worked. Stormy Daniels didn't work. Cohen didn't work. Avenatti didn't work. The attack on Kavanaugh didn't work. The Ukraine crap didn't work. Nothing has worked. They are, do not doubt me, beside themselves. This is unknown territory. They're not used to this kind of impotence. In their minds, they've got all the weapons and they've got all the firing mechanisms. They've got the media. They've got public opinion. They can shape and bend and flake and form anything they want. Nothing has worked. The original idea was the whistleblower characterizing the Ukraine phone call. That alone was supposed to cause people to demand that Trump leave. That alone, without even doing any hearings in the SCIF. Without even calling any witnesses, the whistleblower alone. Then Trump releases the transcript and blows that smithereens. But this whole effort has been designed to create massive public opinion fleeing from Trump. It hasn't happened. They don't have the goods to get rid of Trump in an impeachment or an impeachment trial or the allegation of colluding with Russia, because there isn't any. There's no evidence Trump has done any of this. This has always been an effort to move public opinion in massive percentages to anti-Trump, and it hasn't. And they're lost. They don't know what to do now. So now Trump is committing war crimes. He took out the terrorists. There was no imminent threat. I mean, they're just flailing away. Meanwhile, Trump goes to his rally last night. Toledo is just laughing at him, poking fun at him, having more fun at their expense, properly characterizing pencil neck, talking about Pelosi, begging for the Democrats to nominate Biden so that Trump can ask him about Hunter 9 times during the debates. Trump is on top of the world, sitting there with overflowing confidence, having a grand old time, and these people on the Democrat side are at a loss. And now they are asking themselves, who the hell is in charge over here anyway? No, don't doubt me. They don't know who's running the Democrat show right now, other than the media. Who's in charge? Now, here's the advice I gave Pelosi yesterday, audio soundbite number 2, 3, 2, 1. She should be pushing the turtle to dismiss the charges based on what she just said here. Dismiss equals admission. There's your solution, Madam Speaker. There is your answer. She should be pushing for a dismissal of charges and then run around and say that the Senate knows Trump's guilty, and that's why they dismissed the charges, because they don't have the guts to do a trial. When the truth is, there's nothing to try, because she doesn't have a case, and her articles of impeachment do not present a case. This is why she's not going to send them over. Yeah, look, I know I'm a lone wolf. She's saying they're going to go over there Tuesday. I'll believe it when I see it. Well, she didn't specify Tuesday. She said next week she's going to take steps. But she said yesterday, dismissal of charges equals admission of guilt. That's what she's saying. If the turtle dismisses the charges, he's essentially saying that Trump's guilty. Well, she ought to be pushing for that then, because that's as close as she's going to get. And then you ought to try to make that case. It's kind of like previous advice I gave her. Madam Speaker, all you've got here, the only thing you can do is to accuse the Republicans of bias and partisanship and mean-spiritedness and bigotry and all the rest. And that's why your articles are not going to get a fair trial because of the Republicans. You've got to dump on the Republicans. Those are the two options that she has left. Because if they, folks, if they go to a trial, there's going to be an acquittal. And if that happens, she's toast. You talk about shooting yourself in the foot or elsewhere. Talk about self-forced errors. That would be the creme de la creme. Quick timeout. We'll be back after this.
Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah, we'll get the economy and that news in just a second here, folks. One other thing about Pelosi sending those articles of impeachment. Once she does that, she has lost control. Agenda. I mean, she's out of the news. Once they go to the Senate, that's it for Pelosi. What she thinks, what she does, and not nearly as prominent as when she is still holding them. I want to go back to Monday on this very program and something that I pretty much predicted. Since they have now corrupted the entire original intent of impeachment, what is to stop them? They can impeach Trump for anything they want if they can get the votes for it, and in the House they clearly can. So Schiff or some other committee chairman can open hearings on whether or not Trump is usurping his power by not consulting Congress in ordering military action, say, against Soleimani or anything else that might happen in any theater of military operations. Nothing to stop them from doing this other than common sense and political restraint, which they have demonstrated they have none. All right, so there I was predicting they could reopen impeachment, bring Soleimani terrorism into it. Here's Eric Swalwell on CNN this morning. Question: in your briefing from the regime on the death of Soleimani, did they tell you that there was a threat to U.S. embassies?
In the multiple briefings I've received on this, they have not shown imminence. But they have also now consistently shown that the president, whether it's on Russia, Ukraine, or Iran, with this recent Wall Street Journal reporting, puts his interests above America's interests. And this Wall Street Journal reporting seems to be more consistent with who Donald Trump is, that over the holidays, GOP senators who would be crucial to him for the impeachment trial were urging him to take actions in Iran, and that's connected to what he did.
There you go. Now they're folding this into their whole impeachment thing, that Donald Trump doesn't do anything for America that isn't good for Donald Trump first. And then you heard the word eminence. I didn't see any eminence in the... This eminence business can be nuked easily. I showed how to do it in the first 5 minutes of the program today, and turn it right back on them with bin Laden or any other terrorist they failed to take out when we had the chance when they were running the show. Hey, grab soundbites 3 and 4. Let's do those now. They fit, and we'll move on to the economic news because, man, that is just unparalleled. It's incredible. 29,000 at the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Do you know that let's see, what is the 1/3? Are you ready for this statistic? 1/3 of the gain from 28,000 to 29,000. Dow Jones Industrial Average due to people buying Apple stock. And, of course, Apple product. One company. 1/3 of the gain, 333 points of that 1,000 is Apple. Apple, a company now worth $1.4 trillion. Other companies that have driven up the market are McDonald's, Microsoft, American Express, Johnson & Johnson, American Classic companies. The unemployment news is great, and particularly the wage gains are all happening in the bottom 2 quintiles. Okay, yeah, quintile. Like, we have 5 different categories of income. And the bottom 2, the lowest, each of, if there are 5 categories, quintuplets, quintiles. The bottom 2 quintiles, where people are earning the least, is where wage growth is the fastest. Which is exactly what you want. There is no way to oppose it. There is no way to cast aspersions on it, but leave it to the Democrats to try to find ways, and they are. But before we get breaking that down any further, last night Shannon Bream, on her show on Fox, which is called Fox News at Night with Shannon Bream, she had as her guest a former Deputy National Security Advisor, KT McFarlane. And they were talking about Trump's decision to take out Qasem Soleimani and U.S. foreign policy toward Iran in general. And to set things up, Shannon Bream introduced, she used me and Pelosi to illustrate the difference in the 2 sides on this. Here's the soundbite.
Rush Limbaugh takes on critics of the president's America First foreign policy.
It's not about how bad they are. It's about how good we are, protecting the people in a way that prevents war.
This country, for too long, has had a foreign policy that is rooted in the notion that we provoke the rest of the world, that we are the problem, that we're not the solution, and that it is our superpower status that is the problem. We're too powerful. It isn't fair. We're too big. It isn't fair. And the rest of the world hates us because of that. None of that is true. But that is, if I say so myself, that is a perfect description of the Democrats and their view of the United States, particularly in foreign policy. That's probably the most perfect description there's ever been of the Democrats, offered there by me. And, of course, Pelosi got close to it. It's not about how bad they are. It's about how good we are. And in her view, we ain't very good with Trump at the top. That was her whole point. It's not about how bad they are. See, it's always about us, folks. We are always the ones with the deficiency. We are always the ones with the problem. We're causing the problem. We're not solving anything. So Shannon Bream threw it to KT McFarlane, said, so what do you make of those who are drawing the line between the president's actions and the innocent lives lost on that Canadian plane that they shot down?
Donald Trump is the guy who says, I'm going to put America first. And he's running against people who are saying, let's blame America first. And I think it's a tragedy, not just for the country and the political divisiveness in the United States, but other countries look at us and then they conclude, well, America's so dysfunctional, America can't get its act together, democracy is finished, and I think they feel they can take advantage of us. But it really does handicap the ability of the United States to conduct foreign policy. If foreign nations look at us and they see us divided and weak, because it's a fundamental rule of foreign policy, weak at home, divided at home, weak abroad.
Right, and that's exactly, she's right. So the Democrats are trying to affect is that perception, because their hatred for Trump, I mean, it's now gone way beyond even the irrational. So they're trying to get Trump on war crimes. Now they're trying to say Salami was not planning any attack. There wasn't any imminent. I didn't hear imminent. And let me one more time walk everybody through this. After 9/11, the World Trade Center towers go down. The Pentagon hit. Another airplane down by its passengers in a field in western Pennsylvania before it could hit its intended target. After this happens, the Democrats start chomping all over George W. Bush for failing to connect the dots and stopping bin Laden from committing the atrocity. All the intel was there. Well, we couldn't connect any dots because of the previous administration putting walls up between the FBI, CIA, and other domestic intelligence agencies. They couldn't share data. But anyway, the point was, in 1999, in the year 2000, there was nothing imminent, meaning next week, next month, on the part of bin Laden. But there they were, ripping into Bush for not doing something about it a year in advance. So here's Trump, got data, got intel on the intentions of Soleimani, including hitting our mammoth embassy in Iraq. Takes him out. The Democrat, there was nothing imminent. There was nothing imminent. This is a war crime. He doesn't know that. I haven't seen any imminence. So everything they accused Bush of being lackadaisical on, they now want to say that Trump has usurped his powers. I tell you, folks, at the end of this one, like everything else, they're standing in quicksand. They've got nothing. Because remember, everything that they're doing is designed to force public opinion away from Trump. They're trying to ratchet up his negative numbers. That's what they have failed miserably to do. That's what they are continuing to try to do. I'm convinced that part of Pelosi's reason for holding on to the articles was waiting to see, okay, we've got an impeachment. Trump has actually been impeached. We've done it. They were hoping for a massive plummet in Trump's approval numbers, and guess what? His numbers went up, just like Clinton's did. Okay, to the economic news, and it is, it's mind-boggling. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is at 29,000. It is up 11,000 since Trump took office? It's just unprecedented. Now, some in the media say, well, this is not any big deal because the average American is not in the stock market. It's for the rich. Some info babe on CNN actually said, well, this isn't any big deal because half the American people are not in the stock market. That is a crock. If anybody has any kind of a retirement plan at work, you are in the market. If you have a 401k, if you have a SEP IRA, if you have a SEP KEO, you are in the market. There's any number of ways average, ordinary Americans are in the market, may not even know it. But still, what's the point? You got great economic news and you want to pee on it. You want to pee on it. You try to tell people, well, it's not going to affect you. It doesn't mean anything for you. In the meantime, 145,000 new jobs were added in an economy already featuring full employment. There were 256,000 jobs added in November, 145,000 jobs last month. Unemployment holding steady 3.5%. It's the lowest in decades, like 5 decades. Wages are up 2.9%. year over year. But the important thing, again, about the wage increases is where they are happening. They are happening at the lower end of the pay or wage scale. It's exactly where you would want to see wages going up. In fact, if you want to talk about negatives or problems related to these economic numbers, here's one for you. There aren't enough skilled workers to fill the jobs that are open now, that feature non-white collar or college degree requirement work. There are all kinds of jobs available out there, and the number of skilled people to fill them is not sufficient. So the market's up. It's gone over 29,000. That's an 11,000-point gain since Trump took office. And up. Well, Rush, that doesn't mean it wouldn't matter. It could have gone up with any president. Well, no, because it didn't go up 11,000 with any other president. This is not an accident. It's not a confluence of events that are coincidental. This is the result of specific policy. And we conservatives have been beating our chests over this for as long as we've been alive. Conservative economic policy works. Here's the proof. It's in the pudding. 11,000 points in 3 years added to the DJI. That's a record that might never be touched. In addition to that, there is no, well, there's always inflation, but there isn't any killer inflation. There's not even any really detectable inflation. And there is no recession. There is no recession despite the best efforts of the drive-by media to talk everybody into thinking that there is.
Rush.
Great to have you with us, my friends. It's Rush Limbaugh, the EIB Network, and we are wrapping up a busy broadcast week here on Open Line Friday. Callers can talk about whatever they want with very few, if any, restrictions. But it doesn't change one thing. When we go to you, get to the point. And we start here with Jim in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Great to have you, sir. Hi.
Hello, Rush. I am really honored to be speaking with you, and it feels like I'm talking with an old friend who
Thank you, sir.
I've been listening to you since the early days of WGL Talk Radio in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Yes, sir. I remember that well.
I'm holding in my formerly nicotine-stained fingers a Rush is Right bumper sticker. So my reason for calling is that Trey Gowdy wrote an editorial for Fox News, I believe yesterday, saying the real reason for the impeachment delay is to try to flip the Senate. His point was that when Schiff inadvertently told the truth about the reason for the, as he called it, the pause in transmitting the articles of impeachment to the Senate, that it was really calculated to place moderate Republican senators in a bind and cause them to vote as many times on impeachment as they could so that their Democrat rivals could run 30-second sound bites and use it to try to flip those 4 or 5 seats that would be critical, because they know they can't get rid of Trump as the Senate is currently configured.
All right, let me ask you this. Has that worked? Do you think that strategy that Trey Gowdy has outlined has worked for the Democrats?
I actually don't think so, because I think, as you've said many times, and anybody who's really paying attention, I don't think anybody cares about impeachment except the leftists in the House.
Well, but wait, can you name from any moderate Republicans that have flipped?
No.
Can you think of any moderate Republicans have done or said anything to give these Democrats fodder for campaign ads in November?
You know, I don't. Well, the ones that are vulnerable, I think are may do it. Like what's his name in Colorado, Cory
Gardner.
Cory Gardner. That's one that's sort of targeted. I think they're looking at these purple states, thinking they can put enough pressure on to make it happen. I don't think it's happened yet. No, I don't think. They don't seem to be saying that. I mean, you got some.
Okay, so let me see if I understand this. I may be misunderstanding this. The theory is, Gowdy's theory is that the reason for the delay is to put pressure on some of these moderates. So what does this theory require? Does this require that people like Gardner vote to acquit, and then that makes them vulnerable in November? Is that right or wrong? I'm not sure I understand this, to tell you the truth.
I think he's saying that he wants to, like, okay, where when Schiff said, that they were fleshing out where they stand. They're trying to delay as much time to see if they can get these moderate, supposedly moderate Republicans in these purple states.
Right. To do what, though? To do what?
To vote for impeachment, to push it going forward so that they can use that to say, hey, look, they're for this, and try to, or against it, and then say, okay, hey, we need to get.
Okay, wait. You have to forgive my stupidity and thickness here. How does it help for a moderate Republican to come out for impeachment? The Democrats think that will make them vulnerable when it's re-election time in November because they've gone against Trump?
All right, well, here's what he said. This is actually right from what he said. He said he deemed that Schiff, when he's now talking about Schiff and his moment of truth. He said he deemed it fleshing out where these Republicans stand. He said that is California speak for making Republican senators in tough re-elections cast as many votes as possible on impeachment so their Democrat opponents can run as many 30-second ads against them as possible. That's what.
Okay, so then the theory, they want these moderates to oppose impeachment numbers of times so that they can then say, these guys, you don't want to reelect them, they love Trump. Or something.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's the theory, yes. And it does make sense that, like I said, the point two he was making is they can't get it with Trump. They can't get it now. They're not going to impeach Trump in the Senate.
I know they're not going to get an acquittal and so forth. I have all the respect in the world for Trey Gowdy. In fact, I met him over the holiday break. But I don't think this is as I don't think the Democrats have that degree of control over this. They may be trying to affect something like that, but I think it's just indication of how deluded they are. If they think they can turn this into somehow that's not even what this is about. Now, I can understand somebody that has lived and breathed inside the Washington Beltway for all these years thinking that there's a theory here above and beyond just impeachment, and but I just don't think the Democrats are that sophisticated right now to be able to pull something like that. I gotta go. Out of time.
Rush Limbaugh.
Right on. Here we are back at it. Rush Limbaugh, doing what I was born to do and having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have while doing it. A lot of people have been asking me what I think of the. Here we go.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
Man, do these look good. Wow, these are cupcakes rather than one big cake. So, got two candles here, okay. Got them both in one exhale. Realize the carbon dioxide it took to get rid of those flames.
You thought we forgot. Did you think we forgot?
No, I didn't think you forgot. I thought you'd do it on Monday. But I'm not going to be here Monday, so I thought I had crossed you up.
You thought you were getting out of it.
I thought I was going to get out of it. Yes, birthday. What is this? This is the 10th. This is Sunday. And not going to be here. No, don't worry, folks. Haven't lost my place. And no, nothing's changed. I don't like making a big deal out of birthdays. What's the big achievement of a birthday, other than, living another year? What is this? Making your birthday great again.
I wish you a happy birthday. I would never say in your case that you're fired, so I'll just say you're hired.
That's the birthday card. It's a Trump birthday card. Let me try this again. Listen.
I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday. I would never say in your case that you're fired, so I'll just say you're hired.
Thank you all. Thank you all very much. It's Open Line Friday. Let's hit the jingle and get going here.
Now, from sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
So as I was saying, a lot of people asking me, because people ask me what I think of everything. So, Rush, what's a real reason for this Megxit, the Prince Harry and Meghan Markle leaving the royal family? Come on, every husband, 4 out of every 5 husbands can tell you what this is all about. This one's not hard to figure out in any way, shape, manner, or form. But there's no advantage to me in explaining it to you. So I shall leave you to your own imaginations and conclusions. I did explain it in great detail to Snerdley, and I had him rolling on the floor in laughter. There's no way I cannot explain it. There's no way. I wouldn't survive if I did. I wouldn't. Anyway, let's see. I'll guarantee you this. After the vows were repeated, she said to him, if you think that I'm going to get stuck over here in some little cottage that your grandmother gave us, we're going to run around sipping cocktails and going to horse races wearing top hats, you've got another thing coming. And he said, you could have told me that before we got married. Anyway, where was I going to start with? Oh, there's continuation of the attempt here to get Trump on this imminent threat business. I've got the audio soundbite, Ross, here, which is a good place to resume it. But I'll tell you, last night, or actually yesterday we played a clip of Trump. He was talking to reporters in the Oval Office. Well, no, it was at the infrastructure event that the president had, and as we may have been the only ones to point this out. Trump said yesterday that Soleimani was planning to blow up the U.S. Embassy. And I remember, is that not news? Nobody in the media touched on it. Nobody in the media covered it. And now we know why today. Because they're trying to claim that Trump is lying or that he's wrong about it or that he's making it up to benefit himself somehow. Which is what they're continuing to say, that everything Trump does is for him. He's putting himself before American policy. I don't know how this does that, but that's their story and they're sticking to it. I thought it was news yesterday when Trump said that Soleimani was planning to blow up the U.S. Embassy. This would be in Iraq, in Baghdad. And if that's true, that's reason enough to take the guy out. That's called connecting the dots. And let me repeat for you, people may not know this, the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad is the largest and most expensive embassy in the world that we have. The U.S. Embassy in Baghdad is almost as big as Vatican City. And nobody knows this because there are never any pictures of it. And it's not a featured destination. It's not a great diplomatic appointment. It's not like being appointed ambassador to the court of St. James. That's Great Britain. I mean, that is a cush, ceremonial, really cool gig. Ambassador to Iraq, your life is on the line. This thing is heavily fortified. It goes back to the days of our invasion, the establishment of the Green Zone. You know how much it costs to build this embassy? $1.3 billion. The embassy, our embassy in Iraq, has offices for more than 16,000 personnel. That would be a lot of casualties. If you have an embassy that expensive, that big, that many people in it, and you have intel that the military terrorist architect in Iran is going to hit it, well, there's your dot that you connect and you take the guy out. He deserved to be taken out even if this wasn't the intel, which is another point that Trump has been making. He's responsible for the death of hundreds and hundreds of military personnel, IEDs, roadside bombs that Trump refers to them as. Senior defense official backed up Trump's statements later yesterday, telling reporters that we had intel about multiple plots and threats involving Soleimani, including one that involved a plan to attack the embassy using explosives. And then Trump made the point again last night at his rally in Toledo. So here, let's go back to the audio soundbites. Number 6, we're up to this. Jackie Speier, Democrat from California, last night on CNN.
I have been briefed on it in the Intelligence Committee, so I'm not really at liberty to say. But if what is being projected is true, this is yet another example of collateral damage from the actions that have been taken in a provocative way by the President of the United States.
There you go. We are to blame. It's our fault here. The question she was asked, do you think the Iranians assumed this was some sort of U.S. military plane? This is about the Canadian, or the Ukrainian jet that was shot down. Somehow this is our fault. Somehow this is Trump's fault. Somehow that Ukrainian airliner taking off at Tehran, the Ayatollah International, somehow that's Trump's fault. These people are loony. It's delusional. Well, I've been briefed on it. Intelligence Committee, not really at liberty to say, but it what's being projected is true. This is yet another example of collateral damage from the actions that have been. So we take out Soleimani, the Iranians take out a Ukraine jet, it's our fault. And if you use this line of thinking, we would never. The Democrats have been this way with, I don't care whether it's terrorists or domestic criminals. For as long as I can remember, the Democrat attitude toward bad guys is don't try to catch them. Don't put them in jail. You're only going to make them mad. That has been their standard operating procedure. When Republicans are in the Oval Office, do not go to war, do not take out terrorists. It's only going to make them mad. Everything Bush did, for example, opening up Club Gitmo and having Abu Ghraib, all of that was just going to be a gigantic recruitment for terrorism, right? This is what the Democrats always do. Find a way to blame us. Find a way to blame their own country, even when we take proactive defensive measures. And I, for one, get tired of it. I get tired of hearing these people consistently side with bad guys. I don't care whether they are domestic criminals. I don't care whether they are international terrorists. They definitely are the blame America First crowd. Here's Mazie Hirono, senator from Hawaii. She also on CNN this morning. The question, President Trump claimed that Soleimani was actively planning new attacks, looking at attacking U.S. embassies, not just in Baghdad. Did you see any intelligence that said that?
No. So this is an example of the president embellishing as he goes. I have no idea where he got that from, but that's par for the course for this president.
The intelligence that you saw did or did not suggest an imminent attack?
It did not suggest to my, I concluded after the fact briefing that was done, after the president's basically impulsive decision to kill Soleimani, that there was no imminent threat.
Now, folks, she couldn't do a better job if she was a spokeswoman for the mullahs. Somebody tell me the difference. I didn't see any intel. Well, maybe they didn't show you anything because they were afraid people like you would leak it. Maybe they didn't show you the intel because they know or suspect that you would use it somehow to undermine the president. Since that's the chief modus operandi of the Democrat Party today is to do whatever they can to damage Trump. You know, whatever mess they make in the process, they're telling themselves they'll fix later after they get the White House or what have you. But you couldn't have a statement that was more friendly and supportive of the mullahs, the Ayatollahs in Iran, than what you just heard there from Mazie Hirono. Here is the blackface Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, late yesterday afternoon in Ottawa, talking about the crash of the Ukraine International plane with some Canadians on board. And this is his response.
It seems this is the end result of a sequence of events that was sparked by the drone strike ordered by the U.S. president. So given the information you have, how much responsibility does the United States bear for this tragedy?
The evidence suggests that this is the likely cause, but we need to have a full and complete and credible investigation to establish exactly what happened. That is what we are calling for, and that is what we are expecting will happen.
Now, he was asked again in French, the little blackface prime minister there, and here is how that sounded.
Do you feel that the U.S. is partly responsible for this, given that they created the situation in which the missiles were launched? I think that's one of the many questions that people will be thinking about.
Now, you people, I don't care if you're Trudeau, if you're Mazie Hirono, Jackie Speier, Eric Swalwell, Pelosi, Adam Schiff. Let me just tell you something. I don't know if you've looked at the polling data yet, but if you people want to continue to try to separate Trump from his supporters, you want to try to run his public approval numbers down by taking the side of an avowed enemy of not just ours, but Israel and other American allies, then go right ahead. But I, for the life of me, can't figure out your thinking. Do you really think that by opposing the president and sounding sympathetic to the Iranians, you are going to hurt Trump? Have you learned nothing in the last 3 years? You guys are a bunch of Wile E. Coyotes. Every Acme Corporation bomb has blown up in your face, in your hands. And you keep running and buying more of these bombs, and they keep blowing up on you. You really think this, Justin Trudeau, you really think blaming Trump for the Iranians shooting down a Ukraine airliner is going to sell? In order to pull something like that off, in order to make that, you have to have a foundation of pre-existing hate for Trump beyond your own sordid radical base. And you don't. You're doing the exact opposite of what you intend. You are building support for Trump. People are rallying around Trump. They are supporting, they are cheering what this president is doing in every which theater you can imagine. Economics, domestic policy, foreign policy, war on terror. He's being cheered. People are lining up in sub-freezing temperatures for hours to get into his rallies. And you really think that you're going to make hay by blaming Trump for what the Iranian terrorists are doing, and then by saying Trump had no reason to take out Soleimani, even though he is responsible without any imminent attack for the death of hundreds of Americans so far and counting? So you'd have to conclude they're not that dumb. So this is obviously fundraising, but I'll tell you what else it is, folks, and coming up, I'm going to break this down. The Democrat Party outside of the media has become leaderless in Washington. It isn't Pelosi. And it's not Chuck Yu, Schumer. And it isn't anybody. There's nobody establishing a leadership plan, a leadership strategy. There's nobody enforcing discipline on the troops. It's just everybody out there speaking and doing for themselves, trying to get noticed, and the drive-bys televising all of it, hoping somebody connects with the American people on some level that they could actually oppose Trump or cause him problems, but they're just flailing away. I mean, stop and think of it. You literally pass 2 articles of impeachment and you don't send them to the Senate? And you think somehow this is going to cause negative numbers for Trump, when what it does is cause average, ordinary Americans to say, what the hell are you doing? Okay, so you impeach the guy, now what? You're not going to send the case over to the Senate? There's not going to be a trial? It's the Democrats and their actions that are inexplicable. Not true. They're totally understandable. They've been poisoned with partisanship and hatred, and it's clear as a bell that's what's driving it.
Celebrating the...
Now, I'll tell you what's actually kind of funny about all this is that when you boil it all down, and don't misunderstand me, I mean this specifically, Donald Trump is an anti-war president. He campaigned on anti-war. He campaigned on ending wars and ending our involvement in them when there's no national interest. He campaigned on getting us out of them, and he's doing it. He's doing, and the Democrats are trying to paint him as a warmonger. That is the nature of the disconnect. You know, Pompeo, Secretary of State, and Mnuchin, the Secretary of the Treasury, had a little press greeting today. Drive-by media there was just in all of its ignorant glory about foreign policy and sanctions on Iran. Pompeo outlined who is in charge in Iran and how the sanctions that we have now placed on them after the killing of Soleimani is going to deprive them of any way to grow terrorism. Trump is literally choking off the economics to grow terrorism. Get this, Pompeo said that Iran's oil revenues are down 80%. They cannot access 90% of their reserves. Contrast that to the Obama administration. The Obama administration opened rivers of cash for them to thrive, hand-delivered it on pallets to their airport. Trump is choking them off and sequestering them without a war. Open Line Friday, back to the phones we go. This is Fred. Fred's in Rockford, Michigan. It's great to have you, Fred. Hi.
Thank you, Mr. Rush, and an early happy birthday to you.
Thank you, sir, very much.
The point I'd like to make is I'm in my 70s. I've been following politics for 50 years, and I have never in my life seen a congressman who came into Congress with the gravitas and the importance that AOC did. And I believe that's a product of the press, which Pelosi thinks is on her side. And the fact she can't put AOC in the right box is because these people that she thinks are her friends have given her this big problem.
So the theory is that AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, has become the media darling. Because of that, she's being promoted and heralded, singled out at the expense of Pelosi and the rest of the Democrat leadership. Therefore, the press is responsible for Pelosi even having perceived challenge and opposition to her leadership position. Is that your theory?
Correct. She thinks the press are her friends, the mainstream media, and they're the ones that dumped this problem in her lap.
Okay. So the press, let's carry your theory forward. The press has made Cortez.
Correct.
And the squad.
They've made them more important than they are.
Made Cortez more important than she is.
Well, if I think back over the last 50 years, I don't remember any freshman congressman coming into the House of Representatives.
Precisely. And yet
all
this
importance.
But this one has.
Correct. It's the press.
It is the press, but why?
Well, they just look for the newest and freshest thing. I don't think the press really thinks, to be honest with you. I don't think they ever look at the long-term implications of what they do.
You know, that could well be. But there's some conventional wisdom about the press that people always cite. I'm not accusing you. Don't misunderstand. When the subject of bias comes up and people no, they're not biased. You're missing the point. What they are is X, or what they are is Y. It's a crock. They are biased. They are liberals. There's 98% of vote Democrat. Now, are they other things? Yeah. They have become pro-government, pro-establishment. That's their real allegiance now. Their real allegiance, instead of being watchdogs on power, they have joined it. They think they're joined at the hip with it. And that would traditionally be Pelosi. She's, by definition, she's got the years of service. She has the legitimate power as speaker. And yet, you're right, they have focused on this young bartender. Now, one of the things the press is interested in things that are new. There's also the demographics. I mean, this babe is closer to their age than Pelosi is.
Correct.
She's also as stupid as they are. Well, ignorant. I mean, whatever you want to say. I mean, clearly the woman, she may have some strategery smarts in terms of going up against Pelosi, but the stuff that she knows or thinks she knows about American history couldn't be more wrong, for example.
Oh, I agree with that. I agree with that.
Yet she is heralded as some new, brilliant newcomer in this. I don't think there's anything brilliant about her unless you want to talk about the strategies that she's using to raise money and to go up against Pelosi. Now, one thing she's doing, and Fred, I appreciate the call. I mentioned this earlier. The way that leadership, and this is both parties, the way that leadership holds on to power is by buying it. The amount of money that pours into political parties and candidates in Washington is bigger than you can even imagine. It's bigger than you think. And it is used in any number of ways, in addition to being converted to personal use when they leave. But that's for down the road. So Pelosi will go to each new freshman class, and Paul Ryan would do the same. Hey, you like it here? Yeah, I love it. You want to stay here? Yeah, I want to stay. Okay, here's how's that going to happen. You're going to do everything I tell you to do. You're going to support the legislation the leadership supports. You want a good committee assignment? Yeah, I want to really be on a good committee. Fine, then you got to do exactly what we tell you. And if you do, you know what? We'll help you get reelected. We'll help fund your campaign. We'll find donors that will assist you. And these donors will be beneficiaries of legislation that your name is on. And if you just work with us, then your future's guaranteed. So the leaders take in all this money, and then they go spread it around to up-and-coming freshman, sophomore members of Congress. Well, Pelosi tried that with Cortez was not interested. She didn't want from the beginning to be associated with Pelosi. She didn't want to be beholden to Pelosi. She didn't want to have to vote with Pelosi. She didn't want to have to do anything the leadership did. Instead, she set up her own fundraising apparatus. And it's pretty big because the press, as Fred just pointed out, has made her a big star in these circles. So she's raising her own money, but she's not sharing it with Pelosi or the leadership. She is using it to find people to challenge the leaders in primaries, because Cortez believes that Pelosi and the leadership is a bunch of dinosaurs. They're artifacts of a bygone era. They're not nearly hip enough. They're not nearly radical enough. They're way too establishment liberal. And so she's become a genuine competitor to Pelosi in all ways. And what is different about this is Pelosi has no control over her or any of the others in the squad. And I can't tell you how frustrating that is. So Pelosi, I think a lot of this impeachment business has been to try to keep the squad happy and to keep them off her back and to hold on to her speakership. I think Pelosi is in all new territory here. I think Paul Ryan was in all new territory, and he didn't want to be, so he resigned to go out and do something else. And ditto Boehner. Pelosi's hanging on because that's all there is. But the squad bunch, they're not happy with the way Pelosi's done impeachment. They think she's blown it. They think Trump is guilty of far more than what's in these. They think these articles of impeachment are a bunch of pap. They think that they are throwaways. They're not. They think they're gutless. Now, there's a story today at the Federalist by Ben Domenech, and it's an interesting piece. I'm going to read to you the last line of the piece because it's not answered in the piece. Here is the last, well, let me give you the last paragraph. For now, if you were only reading the front-facing mainstream media, it remains a mystery as to why Pelosi chose this pointless gambit, which ended up dragging this impeachment process out without any benefit to her conference. It's only when you understand who's really in charge that things start to make sense. Now, to me, that ought to be an opening paragraph rather than a closing, because he doesn't answer who's in charge. And if he does, I was not able to figure it out reading the piece. But essentially, it is about his opinion that Pelosi has blown this as badly as it could have been blown. That the Democrats are beginning to defect, that this has not galvanized the Democrats. It has not hurt Trump in any way, shape, manner, or form. That everything she thought would happen, Trump's negatives climbing, people clamoring for the trial, people clamoring for new witnesses, people clamoring for all these witnesses that shifted and called. None of it's happened. The American public is yawning. The American public is not even paying any attention to it. The American public doesn't even care about it because it's a gigantic nothing burger. Pelosi was hoping that the press hatred for Trump and support for Pelosi, the Democrats, would lead to a cacophony of media attention to what a reprobate Trump is, and all these witnesses who have all of this testimony designed, if they could just be brought to testify, it would end Trump the next day, maybe that day. But people are saying, well, if they exist, why didn't you call them? If these witnesses are out there like Bolton or anything, why didn't Schiff call them? You guys were calling witnesses in a basement room that nobody could be present with. Why didn't you call them? Everything has blown up in her face. As evidenced now by all these other Democrats demanding that she get off the dime here and move this. Bring the articles over, which I'm here to tell you, I don't care what she's saying about doing it next week, she doesn't want to do it. Here's another pull quote from the piece. Pelosi is as outsized a figure for Washington Democrats as the turtle is for Republicans. I'm not even sure what that means, and it's not his fault. It's not the right. Pelosi is as outsized a figure for Washington Democrats as McConnell is for Republicans. Outsized. What? Well, anyway, McConnell has several potential Republicans who could conceivably take up a leadership role in the future, replacing him, having learned his methods. But who is Pelosi's successor? Should the Democrats lose the House in 2020, who steps up to the plate, considering the age of the leading Democrats at the moment? And if this is the last major strategic decision that she has made, how does that impact Pelosi's legacy? Perhaps that question will be answered in the multiple biographies planned for the speaker at the moment. But for now, it remains a mystery as to why Pelosi chose this gambit, which ended up dragging the process out without any apparent benefit to the Democrats. It's only when you understand who's really in charge that things start to make sense. Now, throughout the piece, there's a good description of how she's lost control, of how she's lost respect, of how this hasn't gone the way anybody, particularly her, intended it to go, and that her leadership hold is, she's losing it. That essentially we are watching Nancy Pelosi fall over in slow motion. Don't be surprised one day you wake up and she's gone. So the theory is that she's in self-destruct mode, but because of the protection the media affords, it's not chronicled as such, but that's actually what's happening. One day we're going to wake up and she ain't going to be there. But I still don't know who he thinks is really in charge. It's only when you understand who's really in charge that all this impeachment stuff starts to make sense. Anybody have any idea who he might mean is in charge? Let me try to tell you how bad it is for the Democrats. What are the Democrats? What is their one thing? That's the only thing they've got. The only thing they've got, the only thing they've tried, the central issue they have had since election night 2016 is what? Get rid of Trump before the next election. Get rid of Trump before the next. Meanwhile, Trump has 95% support and approval in the Republican Party. You know what Reagan had? 87%. Trump is more popular in the Republican Party than Ronaldus Magnus was. They really, really think that they can get rid of Donald Trump outside of an election. That has been the sole impetus that they've had. Their one selling point, removing Trump without an election. Who would ever decide on that as a number one policy objective? And what does that mean? It means they have nothing. It means they have no ideas. It means they have no leaders. It means there isn't a Democrat out there that could put together one rally like Trump did in Toledo last night, and he could do it every week if he wanted to. There's not a one of them that engenders that bond, that support, that excitement. They have no enthusiasm. They don't have any policies. They don't have any money. They don't have a success track record on anything in the last 3 years other than winning the House in 2018. And to top it off, who the hell are they depending on to bring them out of the wilderness? Rich, old, white guys. Seriously, Democrats? Seriously, millennials? This is your answer? Michael Bloomberg, who could not play third base on any baseball team because he couldn't see over the pitcher's mound to make the throw to first. Tom Steyer? Are you kidding? Tom Steyer, who's ever heard of him? Environmentalist wacko extraordinaire. Crazy Bernie, multi-millionaire, and the closest thing the Democrats have to any kind of excitement, but they're having to depend on rich white guys to shore them up. Who am I leaving out? Bloomberg, it's Steyer. Who? Buttigieg. But Buttigieg is not a rich white guy. There's one other rich white guy. Who? No, he's not a white guy. Andrew Yang's not a white guy. See how discriminatory you are? You think that the Chinese American is a white guy. Wrong-o. Andrew Yang does have a lot of money. Anyway, there aren't any women that are going to carry the day. There aren't any African Americans. The party of diversity. They couldn't get 150 people to show up at a rally like Trump had last night. The Democrat Party is a dead party. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She raises money, but she's a joke compared to Trump. And she may be the energetic leader of their side, but that just is an illustration of how off the rails that they are. That's the truth, folks. Got to take a brief time. Hang on. If you're on hold, be there. Stay there. We're coming to you as soon as we can.
I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday. I would never say in your case that you're fired, so I'll just say you're hired.
Got to take a brief time out here at the top of the hour, folks. Be patient because we'll be back before you know it. And just watching the drive-by media at the top of the hour. Now, look, when I say I am stunned by how much time the drive-bys are giving this story of Prince Harry and Meghan What's-Her-Face leaving the royal family, I know why people are fascinated, but it still stuns me the amount of hard news coverage it gets.
Now, from sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
I mean, are people really as fascinated with the royal family today as they were? When Princess Di was alive and running around, that was probably the peak. Do people really care as much about it now? Well, I actually think in the UK, they're getting close. I mean, it's not imminent, big word, but I think the talk is bubbling up of getting rid of the whole thing. You know, once it stops serving its purpose as a tourist attraction and other things, you get an idea how much money that they're literally giving that bunch. Every year. Yeah, it isn't long. I think the millennials or maybe the generation coming up behind, some of them are going to start saying, what the hell are we doing here? You realize how many health care policies we could buy with the houses that alone we're paying for these people? And what do they do? But provide escapism in the form of media. In fact, even the Oprah got ensnared in this. The Oprah was reported to have been one of the instigators in convincing Harry and Meghan to split the royal family. And so the Oprah had to go out and write a newspaper article, give an interview, and say, it wasn't me. I have nothing to do with it. This is no mystery what's going on here. This is one of, anybody who's ever been married knows exactly what happened here. This is not hard to figure out. But we are on to more serious things here at the EIB Network. Final hour, open line Friday. I'm just looking at the soundbite, Ross, here, because my initial perusal of it 2 hours ago, there was some juicy stuff on here. Pennsylvania. The Trump rally last night was a barn burner. Man, was the guy on. You know, you watch this and you ask yourself, how long can he keep this up? We've got basically 11 months, maybe 10 and a half before the election, and there doesn't seem to be even one sign of any fatigue. You know, the president over the what was it, Thanksgiving? How was it, Thanksgiving? Thanksgiving holiday. Goes over to Afghanistan to a secret mission to see that he gets off the plane, flies all night back here for a game of golf on Friday morning. A commitment that he had made before he left. And he made it. The guy just is indefatigable. And there's not, you watch that rally like in Toledo last night. I had people, man, this guy's hilarious. I said, let me tell you one of the reasons for that. Confidence. And that's what Trump exudes. If you wonder what one thing kind of stands out that makes all of the other aspects of Trump possible, it's confidence. He strides to that podium and that microphone fearless and confident. He's confident of the total support he has in the room. He's confident of everything he's going to say. There isn't one bit of indecision. There isn't any doubt. It is a clinic, folks. It is a clinic on how to build, develop, and maintain a bond with a support base, be it voters or an audience, however you want to characterize it. It is a clinic on optimism and positive thinking and bringing everybody up along with you. And it is all in such stark contrast to what we're seeing on the Democrats. And the Democrat side, as always is permeated with negativism, dour state of mind, dour facial expressions. There's no contest. There's no contest. A, B, side by side. Which team do you want to be on? The malcontents, the never happy, the people don't even seem to be seeking happiness, where there is no laughter, there doesn't appear to be any enjoyment. And then you see Trump, and you see a guy who appears to be totally besieged, set upon, hit upon 24/7. None of the most vile, disgusting, hateful things said about anybody or said about him every day. And yet you look at him, optimistic, happy, confident, exuberant, energetic, engaging, charismatic, infectious, all of these things. It's no contest. In fact, John Fund tweeted something about, he tweeted something that David Brooks wrote. Now, David Brooks, New York Times, ostensibly conservative columnist. But David Brooks, for all you need to know now, he's a never-Trumper. Hates Trump like all of the conservative, so-called conservative intellectuals and their magazines and their think tanks and their cruises. They all hate Trump. And David Brooks has finally figured it out. So Trump hits Soleimani, takes out Soleimani, a massively successful, hugely successful military operation that resulted in the deaths of 0 Americans. The number 2 leader in Iran, the number one terror activist and military person in Iran, wiped out. And what happened? Here comes the chorus from the Democrat. Trump's a monster. Trump had no reason. There was no imminent threat. Trump is a disease. Trump is horrible. Trump stinks. Trump's rotten. We've got to get rid of Trump. And David Brooks writes, so we've had another chorus of Trump is a monster. This is Trump's ultimate victory. Every argument on every topic is about Trump. Hating Trump is the ultimate bonding, attention-grabbing, profit maximization mechanism for those of us in an anti-Trump world. Hating Trump is the ultimate bonding, attention-grabbing, profit maximization mechanism, meaning they've got nothing. The only thing holding them together is not what they believe, it's their hatred for Trump. But Brooks has figured out that this hatred for Trump is doing nothing but calling attention to Trump, which, by the way, is what Trump loves. So in another sense, these people, in their quest to damage Trump, in their singular effort to get rid of Trump outside of an election, are actually giving Trump exactly what he wants. Never-ending attention. Never-ending focus. Trump's ultimate victory. Every argument on every topic is all about Trump. And the never-Trumpers say, yeah, this is the only thing holding us together. The only thing we have in common anymore. All of us never-Trumpers, the only thing we have in common is our mutual hatred for Trump. And what's it getting them? Zip, zero, nada. We have a call, somebody from Toledo, who I think was at the rally last night. This is Michaela. Michaela, hi, great to have you on the EIB network. Were you there last night?
Yes, I was. Happy birthday, Rush.
Thank you.
Yes, I was at President Trump's rally last night in Toledo, and it was massive. I was also at his 2016 campaign rally in Toledo, and last night's crowd had within at least double, if not triple, the size it was in 2016.
Wow. Well, you know, there's some interesting thing like Florida. Florida has become red. Florida is not in the toss-up category anymore. And the same thing's being said about Ohio. You know, not long ago, Ohio was a toss-up state. If you're going to win the presidency, you had to win Ohio. Not true now. It's pretty much been ceded to the Republicans. That state, if there is a replacement, would be Pennsylvania now. Well, for the Democrats, if the Democrats are going to win, they have to win Pennsylvania. And they may not. They probably won't because of Trump's strength outside Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. And in Pittsburgh, even as you get closer to the city, Trump's support is growing. But you, so you were there in 2016, you were there last night. What is your overall perception of everybody at the event? Those of us watching, it just looked like everybody was on the same page and having a great time. And the president was on. It looked like he was connecting with everybody.
Oh, it was. He gave an awesome speech. I was standing in line with just normal, everyday Americans, farmers, construction workers, even union members. And we were all out braving the cold yesterday because we wanted to say thank you, President Trump. Thank you for being our voice.
You know, that's interesting. You wanted to go in to say thanks.
Yes, and there was people around me screaming thank you. And I hope the Republicans understand something that President Trump said last night. He said the Republican Party is the party of the American worker, the American family, and the American dream. And that gave me goosebumps, Rush, because I absolutely believe that President Trump, that's what he's doing for us.
Well, you know, that is absolutely true. The Republican Party is all of that. Well, I did not see the beginning. Was there a protester?
I didn't see any protesters when we were walking. We got down there about noon.
Because somebody sent me a note. Somebody sent me and said there was a protester, and Trump said, "Don't worry, I'm going to order a missile to be fired up his rear end."
Oh, inside the stadium, there was a couple stupid protesters. They had some anti-war posters, and yeah, they got escorted out.
Do they not look silly? Do they not look just out of place and silly and little, just childish and tiny and small?
Childish, yes, exactly. No, the whole arena, I think it holds 10 to 11,000 people, and it was packed to the rafters. And there were people, at least 1,000 people outside that couldn't get in, and they were standing there listening to President Trump's speech on the Jumbotron.
Yeah, I know. I've seen it. I've been to these, and I've seen it every one that I have attended. Michaela, thank you very much for the phone call. Now take a brief break, a timeout. There was a point that I was going to make about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in the last segment, last half hour, where we talked about it, and I didn't get around to it, so I'm going to finish and wrap that up. We'll get back with you on the phones as well when we get back.
Are you thinking about joining?
Right on. Rush Limbaugh meeting and surpassing all audience expectations. Every day, Lafayette, Indiana. Next, this is Dennis. You're up on Open Line Friday. Hi.
Hey, Rush. Long-time fan and first-time caller, but I have a couple comments here for you. You talked about the 11,000-point gain in the stock market. You there?
Yep, 11,000 in 3 years.
In 3 years, yeah. The stock market runs on emotions, and so that demonstrates confidence in the economy. So, if you look at it, that means we went from 28,000 more or less to 29,000 in 3 years. That's a 60% gain in the stock market, and I don't care if, with the confidence that shows investors have. I don't care if you're working at a minimum wage job. You're benefiting from the rise in the stock market because that puts people to work.
And it is we're at full employment, still creating jobs, wage increases in the bottom 2 quintiles. And, we've had 1,000-point gain in just the last, it's a few months, 1,000 point, 28 to 29,000. 1/3 of that has come from people buying Apple stock. Apple stock has been anywhere $250 now to $300 a share. But people are living this. And in the midst of all this, Dennis, you've had the Democrats and the media periodically trying to tell people we're in a recession.
Right.
It doesn't wash.
Right. No, but people besides those that are invested in the stock market with 401ks and stocks and bonds and everything else, they're benefiting from it because it's creating jobs. That's where I was going with it.
Well, it's undeniable. It's in the job data. We've got more jobs open than there are people to fill them. And we are, the problem that we have, if you want to, I don't mean this in a negative, it's a challenge kind of problem. The problem we've got is that we have a deficiency in qualified people in areas that are not white-collar or college degree required jobs. And it is in those areas that wages are increasing the most. Everybody's wages are going. I think there's one quintile where wages are dropping. It's a very top, and it's infinitesimal. The wage growth is in the bottom of the wage, which is exactly what you want. No, so you're absolutely right. I'm glad you called. This is Gil in Philadelphia. Great to have you on the program, sir. Hi.
Rush, I know that you've known Donald Trump for quite a while. And during the primaries, I was not in favor of Trump at all. And as a matter of fact, I might even say I voted for him reluctantly. But since that time, I have come to believe that he is a gift from God. It's an act of God's providence that this man, who else would have the personality, the energy, the stamina, and the policies that we need so desperately? And I'm just thankful he's there. Well, my question is, I know you've known him a while. Did you have any inclination ahead of time that he was going to be this great of a president?
Well, I'll tell you, I'd love to answer this question thoroughly for you. And I'm probably going to have to extend the answer beyond the break at the bottom of the hour. So continue. The short answer to your question, and then I'm going to go back and add to it. The speech that he gave announcing his candidacy, we came down the escalator. I just want to tell everybody at that moment I was all in. But at that moment, I didn't know if he was serious. Nobody. We need to go back and relive that moment and remind everybody some of the things that Trump said, because when you look back at this now in an historical way, it is unbelievable what happened. He comes down the escalator, and of course the primary issue that he lit everyone up with was illegal immigration. And do you remember his detailed description of the illegal immigrants coming into the country, specifically from Mexico and Central America? Do you remember him detailing their characteristics? Rapists, murderers, criminals, drug pushers, drug addicts. I mean, he spared no expense. And I'll never forget the reaction to this. I was watching when he finished that speech. You turn to CNN, you turn to Fox, turn anywhere, and everybody was laughing themselves silly. They were a combination of appalled at the language, appalled at what he had said about those people, and at the same time laughed because it was hilarious. At that time, virtually everybody on any news network commenting on this believed he was not serious, that there was something else going on. There was some other reason Trump was doing it. It was either a slick promotional vehicle for a new season of The Apprentice, or some new TV show, or some new thing that he was going to do. But nobody thought that anybody seriously about running for president would ever come down an escalator and say the things that he said. I, too, was laughing, but not at him. I was laughing with him. But I knew that he was serious. I knew that he meant it. Now I've got to take a break, but do not worry. I do not lose my place. I just saw an interview with Tom Brokaw. He says the current media is destructive. It's doing nothing but spending 24/7 talking about what's ticking people off. And he started lamenting the fact, this just blew me away. He says, we go back and look at Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was able to unify the country, unify the people of the country after the Vietnam War and after all this. Reagan was able to unify in what universe? I mean, he got 49 state lands. He unified the country. The press hated his guts, just like they hate Trump. Brokaw doesn't remember that. Anyway, he thinks the press is very destructive right now. Too many voices. You don't know what's true. You just have no idea what's true anymore. And there isn't any unity. There's no common set of this, common set of that. I have printed it. I'm gonna get into more detail of it next week when we get back. To finish this answer on Trump, I reminded some people in the Trump White House of this, because I think that to them, Trump's campaign in 2015, 2016 is so long ago. It's only 3 or 4 years ago, but it is a lifetime ago. And they are focused on a re-election campaign now that has a completely different set of issues, events, parameters, you name it. But I wanted to remind them what they pulled off. I want you to stop and think about this, folks. A guy from outside the political spectrum. I actually think Trump is the embodiment, by the way, of the one of the tenets of the American dream, that anybody can do anything in this country. And it's one of the things that official Washington hates about him. He's not from them. He's not from their world. And their world is a very exclusionary and exclusive world. And if you're not in it, you don't get to be in it. And you certainly don't succeed in it if you try. And here he comes and mops the floor with all of them. They're very protective about their club, their world, and the fact that Trump was able to get elected, which is a public referendum. It's an election is, on one level, an expression of national popularity. It's just set them on their heels. They still haven't been able to get over it. But Trump doing it should tell any of you that you can do anything you want in this country, that it is possible. It may be hard, and it may be unlikely, and it may be something really against the, but it can be done. I think it's the quintessential illustration of what many people think the American dream is, because in conventional wisdom is there's no way somebody like Donald Trump should get past first base in a presidential election. But he hit a home run. But go back to that trip down the escalator. Think about the things that he said about illegal immigrants. Think about the way he described them. Now, he described them in language very common to everybody who thinks negatively or has this same attitude about illegal immigration. People are worried about it. It's not a race issue for people. People are worried about the destruction to our culture, lack of assimilation, the rule of law. I mean, these are people breaking the law. Nobody seems to care. Rule of law matters. Why are we looking the other way? Why are we letting this bunch of people get away with breaking the law? And everybody knows it's a Democrat voter registration plan. So Trump comes down the escalator and doesn't hold back. And he got elected. After that day, I will guarantee you not a single person in the drive-by media or political class who watched his announcement thought he had even the serious intent to get elected. Nobody would ever say those things about people if they really intended to win. He said them, and he got elected. And there's one other example of this, the Access Hollywood tape, which NBC had for the longest time. They held it, and they held it, and they held it, and they finally released it, and it came out in October. There's nobody in politics who'd ever survive that on top of everything else. And I told the people in the Trump campaign, don't forget that. You got elected. There's a reason why. There's a reason why you got elected saying those things, describing that issue the way you did. There's a reason why you got elected. It did not hurt the electoral effort. For reasons I can't divulge simply because of privacy, I had an inkling that Trump was going to do this years in advance. I didn't know when, don't misunderstand. But when I saw him make those speeches, that speech, I waited. I was all in that day. And I had a lot of friends of mine thinking I was nuts because the ideal conservative candidates would have been Rubio or Cruz. And going all in for Trump, a lot of people now love the guy, hated his guts after that escalator speech for a host of reasons. When I saw the first polls taken after that escalator speech, and they were about 2 weeks after, and I saw that Trump was at 38%. I just kind of smiled, and I said, he's going to win. And I told anybody here in the studio that I thought he was going to win when I saw the first wave of polls after the escalator speech. And when the Access Hollywood video happened, my concern was that there would be people in his campaign that would abandon him over that. So I fired off a couple people that I knew, and I didn't know a whole lot of people at campaign, but fired off a note. Whatever you do, do not let this change anything you're doing. I said the American people are fed up with these October surprises. They are fed up. This stuff has been out there for all of these years, and they just now release it. The American people are fed up with their election being tampered with these stupid October surprises. They've had it. It isn't going to work. I said, do not worry about this. It isn't going to work. I don't know if they listen to me or not. But I do know that the last debate with Hillary Clinton, what did Trump do? He brought all of Bill Clinton's women in and put them in the front row. And I said, this is over. So the short answer to your question is, yeah. Not only was I an early on supporter, I was confident he was going to win. But see, I have an advantage over all the other people on cable TV. They have no idea who the American people really are. The American people are not their audience, but the American people are my audience. I have a similar bond with the people in this audience that Trump has with his supporters. And it enabled me to be confident, to feel confident he was going to win, and that the traditional things that happen in a campaign that cause a candidate to lose support were not going to cause him to lose support, because he was that different. He represented something desperately needed at the time. And it wasn't just that he was an outsider, but that was a big deal. It was a massive assist for him in terms of people viewing his qualifications. The fact that he was an outsider, not part of the swamp, not part of the age-old problem. People were frustrated and fed up. They'd be told one thing during campaigns, and then the people telling them what they want to hear during campaigns after getting elected would never follow through on it once they were in office. So, yeah, it never entered my field of vision that Trump was or was not a conservative. That was not a factor. I knew. You listen to him. He was not a liberal. You could tell who he thought the quote-unquote enemies. You could tell who he thought the opposition was. It was the same people I think are the opposition. The people that he wanted to defeat are the same people I think need to be defeated. And that added up to a great common bond. I've known Trump for a long time. He's not a conservative ideologue, but he has instincts, and he lives his life as though he is one. So the fact that he doesn't know who Edmund Burke is, but lives his life as a conservative, which matters? To the never-Trumpers, the fact that Trump doesn't know who Edmund Burke is disqualifies him. Okay, so he doesn't know intellectual conservative history and all that. Doesn't matter to me. And he is following through. There hasn't been one thing he's done so far that has let me down. That's like, oh, damn it. I haven't had one reaction to anything he's done. Damn it, I got fooled. Damn it, this is not good. Damn it, I'm losing fit. It has not happened. I don't know about you, but it hasn't happened with me. Got to take a break. Hang on, we'll be back. Don't go away. Spanky and our gang, 1968, like to get to know you. The bumper rotation, the EIB network. By the way, folks, the minimum wage has nothing to do with wages in the bottom two quintiles going up. The wage increases that being recorded here by employment figures, Labor Department figures, so outpace whatever increase the minimum wage. It's not even close. The minimum wage isn't a factor. And the government's not determining which groups' wages are going up. It just happens to be what's happening. There's free market economics going on. The reason wages are going up is because it's hard to find good people. There are more jobs open than there are people to fill them. Wages are going up because productivity is up. That's the main way wage increases happen, is more productivity. The productivity is up because of the necessity of fulfilling the economic activity and the demands that are being placed on the American economy. Supply, demand. The demand is way up. It takes productivity to fulfill it. Wage increases go. There's nothing to do with the minimum wage. Who in the world thinks that? Who thinks the minimum wage is? That's a bunch of crap leftism. Well, screw them. The Washington Post, the LA Times are trying to claim that the minimum wage is why wage increases in the lower 2 quintiles are up. That's our crock. Minimum wage cannot keep up with the rate of wage increase that's recorded out there. What an asinine thing to say. You know, that's just typical. It's just typical. They spend all this time, the economy's going south, our best days are behind us, Obama's era of decline is the way it should have been. Now wages are skyrocketing, and now they want to come in and try to claim credit? And claim it's their precious minimum wage that's responsible for it? What an absolute insane premise. By the way, see here, the Senate today had a resolution to honor the military for the Soleimani operation, and 0 Democrats supported it. 0 Democrats support Senate resolution honoring the military for the Soleimani strike. In 2011, there was an identical resolution praising Obama for the bin Laden strike, and it was supported by all senators, 100 of them, Republican and Democrat. But a Senate resolution honoring the military taking out Soleimani, not a single Democrat supported it. What's different? They hate Trump, pure and simple. My friends, when it comes to getting a good night's rest, the one company that should come to mind is not a mattress company. It's not a pillow company. And those are fine companies. Don't misunderstand. When you hear people talking about, or if you want a good night's rest, think Boll and Branch. Now, they make mattresses. They do. They make sheets, softest sheets at the price point that you can buy. They make bedding of all kinds with an incomparable emphasis on comfort and luxury. Now, 6 years ago, that's all it is, 6 years ago, the husband and wife founders of this company started making sets of sheets that rivaled the luxury they had experienced in 5-star hotel suites. They wanted the same stuff for their home. They didn't want to have to pay $1,000 for it. They went looking for it. They went trying to find where they couldn't. They didn't want to spend $1,000. They found a way of making sheets that are just as soft, but for just a couple of $100 instead of $1,000. And they have been popular from day one. And for years, even now, we talk about supply and demand, they're having a tough time keeping up with consumer demand. Same is true with the Boll and Branch mattresses, now made in 3 factories in America to keep up with the demand there. Every mattress purchase comes complete with the free in-home white glove delivery service as well. So if you haven't yet done this, bollandbranch.com, B-O-L-L and branch.com. Use my name. When you make your purchase, you'll save $50 off your first set of sheets, 30 days to try them free of charge, because you can send it back for a full refund if you don't like them. But you won't. You'll like them. bollandbranch.com. Remember, mention my name.
Rush Limbaugh, simply brilliant on the EIB network.